just don't understand. Is it just because Germans are super careful and they never want anything to happen? Why do they spend so much money on insurances? Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Jenna and I am an international who's been living here in Germany since 2014. There are a number of questions that I have for you Germans, and I will put together a video asking these questions a little bit later on. But one of the biggest questions that I constantly had was, why on earth do Germans have so much insurance, and why is there an insurance for everything? Or why is this so commonly known around the world that Germans have insurance for everything? And this is something that I really, didn't have the answer to. And if you don't have the answer to this question, then I have to be honest, from an outsider looking in, I constantly thought, I just don't understand. Like, is it just because Germans are super careful and they never want anything to happen? Like, why do they spend so much money on insurances when 9 times out of 10, something's probably not even going to happen? Slowly but surely, I have finally figured out some really valuable answers that started to make that question make so much more sense to me. First of all, the myth of Germans actually having a lot of insurance is actually quite true. Did you know that almost 85% of Germans actually have liability insurance? Go ahead and ask that question in North America to anybody. And 50% of Germans actually all have legal insurance. And for an international coming to Germany, a lot of people don't even know what that actually includes. So why is it that so many Germans have so much insurance, and does it really make sense? This is a question for me that has come up time and time again. I actually talked about it with Kyle from Feather Insurance, and I will link that video up above if you want to check it out. But I feel like at least once a week I end up having this conversation with somebody, and finally I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk to a number of Germans, ask them why it is that they think this is the case, and then do some good in-depth research. And the root of that answer is that it is absolutely 100% within the history of Germany. So while many of us seem to think that the reason Germans have so much insurance is because they just want to be really careful and that they think things through and always want to prepare for the worst. And while yes, this is true, and I would like to say, look at the current situation right now, look at this pandemic. I don't want to argue with you, but I think that Germany has done a pretty good job at handling the situation thus far. So where in history did it originate from? Well, if you don't know, now you do. Germany actually has the oldest public health insurance system in the world. And they also became the world's first country to adopt and implement the social security system back in 1889, which was actually designed by Germany's then Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, which was essentially created in order to promote well-being of the German workers and to make sure that this classic German efficiency was working at its full force. And Bismarck also mentioned that by creating the social security system, this was also preventing any radical socialists from creating any sort of wild alternatives. So participation in this social system was actually mandatory, and that was paid by the employee, by the employer, and by the government. And at the time, this included, of course, your health insurance, your pension, and also accident insurance. And of course, today, they've also added your long-term care insurance on top of that, as well as unemployment insurance. So as time went on, as history developed, there were numerous different events that took place that led Germany to make sure that they were covered and that they were careful in the event of a catastrophe or a fire or what have you. They were simply more prepared. So yes, that is true, and yes, there is some background behind the reason why Germans are more prepared. But does that actually answer the question as to why so many people actually have it? I know for a lot of people, buying insurance can be looked at being quite an expensive purchase. But that's the thing here in Germany, is that insurances actually are very affordable. And that is because the more people that choose to buy into this insurance system, well, then the cheaper the policies are actually going to be. So because there's so many people buying into different insurances here in Germany, the insurance prices are actually very cheap. One that I will mention is personal liability insurance, because this is one of the cheapest ones on the market today, and also one that you shouldn't even really think about. You should just buy it. And you'll also see numerous comments from many, many Germans in that video where we discussed insurances before, where all of them agree, like, why would you even think twice about buying personal liability insurance? But as an international, again, looking in, this is not something that you think of. You don't immediately assume, okay, I need to buy my personal liability insurance. Why? That is because in North America, specifically in Canada, you don't actually really have an option to buy personal liability insurance separate from other packages. So more often than not in Canada, you'll find that it's included in our homeowner's policy. So as a student, for example, this is nothing that I ever thought about. You can also find it in North America in a renter's insurance package. But again, as a student, for example, this is not something I ever thought about. I never, not once, had a discussion about what types of insurances should I be buying. Whereas here in Germany, you can just buy personal liability insurance on its own, and this is actually very common. So you can actually buy personal liability insurance for as little as, I don't know, €5 a month. So you're paying like €60 a year for something that you're actually probably likely going to use. And on this topic, of course, I would like to give a big shout out and a very, very big thank you to Coya. If you're an English speaker, you've definitely heard of Coya before. If you're a German speaker, they also offer the site in German. But Coya is basically a provider of different insurances. They offer it in the English and the German language, which makes it very easy for internationals first moving to Germany. For me, the biggest one was that, yes, they offer personal liability insurance starting at $4.99 a month, but they also offer other ones like home content insurance, dog liability insurance, pet health insurance, bike theft insurance, and e-bike theft insurance. And so when you're looking at a list like this, for example, and you're thinking pet insurance, why would I buy pet insurance? This is something that I think people also won't ask twice about in North America, because my family had a dog and the expenses really, really racked up. So if we had have had an affordable option at pet insurance, I'm sure we would have purchased it, but we didn't because it was too expensive. But I think at the end of the day, we actually did end up paying a lot more in his medical bills than we would have even with a more expensive plan back in Canada. But more importantly is dog liability insurance. And I laughed so hard when I first found this out and was like, who needs dog liability insurance? But any German watching this video is going to probably look at me and be like, what? Like, everybody should be getting dog liability insurance. And that is because things do happen. I mean, things happen in any case, in any situation. But regarding dogs, it can be a little bit sticky. And I'm mentioning this more in a broader term. So we'll use dog liability as an example. But I find in Germany that people are so used to making use of the insurance system and the insurance packages that they've purchased into that it's kind of second nature. They don't even really think about it, so that when something happens, aka your dog bit somebody, they don't even think twice about saying, oh, don't worry, it's okay, I'll just go to the hospital, get it stitched up. Right away, they usually say, we're gonna go through your insurance. So I think a lot of Germans actually assume that others have the insurance that they need because they do, because they're well prepared. And so as internationals, I think it's also important that we are very, very prepared in any situation. And I've talked about this before regarding personal liability insurance, where, if you spill a coffee in somebody's very, very expensive purse, in Canada, they might say, oh my God, I'm so sorry for doing this to you. Here's $50 and I really hope that helps with the cleaning of the purse. In Germany, that's not usually the case. They would likely go straight through insurance. A good example is I got in a really bad car accident back in Canada at one point, and I did end up going to the hospital just to check my neck out because for weeks and weeks I was having a really, really hard time moving my neck without pain. And to be honest, I didn't even think about going through insurance because I had hurt myself. I thought, unless I'm lying in the hospital facing an almost death situation, I would never go through insurance. But in Germany, people don't think that way. They get in an accident. If they have to go to the hospital at all because they have neck pain or any sort of minor pain, they can still go through insurance because of the suffering that they went through. So it's just a very different mentality, I think, and people are a lot quicker to go through insurance here than they would be in North America. So when you're on the other end of something, for example, as an international who is not well prepared, then you might end up in a serious pickle and perhaps actually spending a lot of money. So I hope this helps you kind of understand a little bit more as to why do Germans actually have so much insurance, because for me, I finally had that aha moment when I realized that Germans are so quick to go through insurance. And that's not because they're scared that you're going to screw them over or something. It's just because it's almost standard procedure here. So on the other end of things, it's very, very important that you are covered in all cases. And as mentioned, you can go and check out Coya.com. They've got a lot of information there in English. They can also help answer any questions that you have. And of course, their insurance packages are actually really, really affordable. Sometimes I find that companies that are promoting a product or a service to expats like to bump up their prices a little bit more because they are providing this premium service. But Coya actually has some really, really good rates that can actually beat out a lot of the other insurance programs here in Germany. So check that out. If you don't have private liability insurance yet, go get it. If you have a dog and you want to avoid any high medical costs, then make sure you check out the pet insurance as well. And if you have a dog, even a little dog who likes to bite, I would say definitely 100% get that pet liability insurance as well. So laugh all you want. I definitely had my fair share of giggles when I first got here. But now, dear Germans, it finally makes sense. And I understand and I respect your decision. And now I can almost consider myself German too, because the amount of insurance I have here in Germany doesn't even compare to what I didn't have back in Canada. I think I only had health insurance back in Canada, to be honest. That's all for me. If you guys have any other interesting stories as to why do Germans actually have so much insurance, or why is there an insurance for everything here in Germany, let us know in the comments below. I find this topic really, really interesting, so I love to chat about it. I really hope you like this video, and if you enjoyed watching this video or any of my other videos, please make sure to subscribe and give me a like. I always think it's so crazy, but when I look at the analytics, 90% of you actually have not subscribed to my channel. So give me a little bit of love here. It really does motivate me to keep on going, and it really helps me see what content is worth expanding on and what content is absolute garbage. So always ask me any questions you have in the comment section below. Other than that, vielen lieben Dank und wie immer, bis später.